So there is In Our Own Voice, there's Compartiendo de Esperanza, and Sharing Hope. So those last two, Sharing Hope and the Hispanic one, is zoned in on those communities and how to, the warning signs within those communities. It's different for Black people than it is for Hispanic people than it is for white people. So we try to separate them, those different warning signs, into something that you can relate to and that you can understand within your own family members. And I think that's also just as important, especially for us being African Americans, to know that it's different. Like, we have a whole stigma. We don't even want to talk about mental illness, let alone see warning signs. So it's important for, especially in this generation where we're a little more aware than our parents were, that we can start to educate ourselves on how to deal with it within our own lives, and then be able to help those around us. So those are the presentations they have. And then there's support groups. So there's NAMI Connections, which is for those who have mental illnesses. They meet weekly, bi-weekly, and monthly. And they just come together to support each other. I think that we all know, like, hey, you do music, so it's nice to go to a choir where people all know about music, and they all know, like, you know, they can meet you on that level. Your pastor, being around other pastors, other people who are able to connect you on that spiritual level. So for them, it's important to know how people feel internally. And it's going to give you that encouragement that you need throughout the week to be like, okay, that person might not get me, but I have people who understand me so I can make it through. And then there is the family support. I find that one just as important because you may not have a mental illness, but you're going to be affected by it at the end of the day, whether it's your sister, your boyfriend, your uncle. And so you need someone who understands what you're going through as well, and how hard it can be to deal with someone who has a mental illness. And so that is a support group for the family. It also can have friends or significant others. And the last one is Smarts for Advocacy, and that's a hands-on training for mental illness and for the person who has mental illness, their family members, significant others, and friends. And I just like hands-on training anything because I've learned with being able to do it myself. And so it just gives you different ways to cope with things, different scenarios that you might encounter with people who may have mental illnesses. And so that is Smart for Advocacy. So why NAMI? Okay. So 1 in 5 Americans live with some form of mental illness. And that's like live. So that's every day. Until they die, they're going to live with this mental illness. And there's already 4 people in this room, so add another one. One of us is going to have a mental illness, right? And that's a lot of people, just Americans, right? And that is 46.6 million people. That was in 2017, so it's probably raised. So if you think about that, that's the whole state of California plus 7 million.
Wow.
That's a lot of people. Exactly.
New England.
That's like a whole, that's a lot of people. So then we have 1 in 25 US adults experience serious. So this is just experience it, right? And you think that that's not as bad as living with it, but if you think of one experience in your life, broke up with a boyfriend, your friend hurt you, and how much that experience affected the rest of your life. Just think of having depression just for a couple of months, how that can throw off someone's entire life. And so 1 in 25 adults, or US adults, are going to experience that. And then 1 in 6 youth, ages 6 to 17, will experience a disorder. That's, think of how many kids are in school.
That's so many.
That's a lot of kids, that's a lot of people. And that's why I found Ending the Silence an important presentation, because 1 in 6 youth are going to experience that, and what happens after that. Because then the next statistic says suicide is the 2nd leading cause of death in people ages 10 to 34. So that completely encompasses.
That's so young.
Yes, that's really young, and that encompasses the whole youth age. So it's like, you're going to experience it, and if you see someone who's going to experience it, they may or may not kill themselves, is what it comes down to at the end of the day. So really the point of that is, you're gonna know someone, whether it's your family, your friend, your coworker, and how are you gonna deal with it? If you don't know anything about mental illness, you're just gonna think, oh, they're mean, or they're having attitude, or it's this or this or that, when it could be something that is affecting who they are in their mental being, and you have to be able to deal with it. So why choose NAMI then? Well, NAMI is top 10 charitable organizations according to Watchdog, and Watchdog is a website that watches all the charitable organizations and their financial statements, their outreach, and just make sure that they're actually living up to what they say that they're doing. On Watchdog, NAMI received an A in the mental illness category for charities, and then there are 168,000 members and 1,140 state and local affiliates across the U.S., meaning that there's a reach. That's a lot of people that they are touching, that they're involved with. Affiliates means that there's someone else, another company that's partnered with NAMI that is pushing the awareness, that's encouraging, that's donating. So they have a lot of reach, and they are reaching a lot of people. So 79% of their cash budget is used on a program. So that means 79% of the money that they have on reserve is being used for an actual program. And only 16 of the $100 that they use to raise money, or 16 of $100 they get is used to raise the money. So that is, so if they have 13, so their charitable donations is $13 million. So only $2,080,000 is used to raise that $13 million. And that's really important because there's some organizations who use way more on other things, not on the actual cause that they're trying to work towards. So, and then lastly, they meet government and transparency benchmarks, which I think is important because we have things like the Red Cross. You know, I don't know if you guys have heard that like people started to say like, oh, don't donate to them, or even like, I don't know if you guys remember this, but Coney 2012 or whatever they called it. Everyone was donating. When I was in like 9th grade, everyone was donating, and then it turned out that they were actually using that money for like human trafficking. So it's important, So it's important that the organizations that we donate to, that we use our time for, that we volunteer for, that you do research and that you're able to verify that they're using their money and the money that you're giving, the time you're giving for that actual cause. And NAMI has been certified across the board for that and received actual acknowledgments for their work. So they're committed to their mission. They actually act and use the money towards helping people who need help with mental illness, who need to be educated on it, who need to be uplifted, who need to be diagnosed. They actually have a hand in what you're providing to them. There is a story I want to tell.